Do I feel as though music composed by artificial intelligence would be viewed as subprime art when compared with human works? Oh, that's an interesting question. If you could no longer tell the difference between them and they could create unique works faster than any human, would you feel as though it added or took from what it means to create beauty? This is an interesting thought. Like, it depends, right? We've used machine learning to have machines imitate the tendencies of composers, right? I think that the art would probably be, because if you're using terms like, would it be viewed as subprime? I think it would be by most people. I think that's obvious, that it would be viewed that way. But what it actually would be, um, would have to be something appreciated probably by other machines because they would share in that experience. I suspect that them trying to make art for human enjoyment, if they actually were another life form, like a second intelligence, artificial intelligence, it can imitate things. It can imitate things very well, but it doesn't draw from its own experience like a composer would. You know, it doesn't have necessarily the same experience. And artificial intelligence is not yet aware of its own mortality if it has one. It doesn't have an inescapable mortality. Let's put it that way. And I think that colors a work of art very much. A Turing test for musical composition. The Turing test is interesting. Or what it's learned via a neural net. Back when I was only a. I love it. BRB got to put a bolt back on Summit. See you when you return from that. Felt like I saw an NPR segment on this. I mean, I don't know if that's as thorough an answer as you want. It's just an opinion. I do believe that other intelligence can exist, and other intelligence probably can be created by another intelligence, etc. I think you have to be a vastly complex organism to understand the metaphor necessary for art to have the effect that it does, right? And I say humans, I don't know if we're vastly complex or if we're actually very simple in terms of the universe. We are just the most complex things we know about. Um, AI like AlphaZero have made new ways of playing chess that many see as beautiful. But music isn't confined to a set of permutations, right? There's a finite number of games you can play on a chessboard. I think that it would arise some beautiful tendencies that we haven't thought of within the confines of those permutations, right? Like it would just think of some wild moves that would work out, forever down the road. Sleep is beckoning you. Oh, of course, Bandit. I'm happy that your first raid brought you here. It was nice to meet you. Thanks for hanging out and chatting with me and all of us. I hope you sleep well. Autumnology, if you are into this stuff, you might really like reading the work of Douglas Hofstadter. Specifically, and I recommended this book to a friend recently, Fluid Analogies. He wrote a program in Lisp some years ago that dealt with early forms of analogy problems. And it was very, very interesting how it worked. He's a wonderful thinker in terms of this. Not because the board is finite. Due to the 3 moves repetition. Are you talking about that as the limiter? Think of music much like language, where certainly we can imagine a great many of sound combinations, but ultimately another aspect of it is getting the listener to understand what the composer-performer is trying to communicate. We have things in common. I think rhythm works for us because we have heartbeats. We all have an internal pulse. I mentioned this on my Discord, actually. I think pulse is the foundation for getting the listener to understand something that is being communicated. I think that's why it's sort of fundamental. Like, you can have music that is strictly a series of pulses and without melody, even. But that is a shared thing about being human. That's why our art works for us. It always takes longer than you expect, even when you take into account Hofstadter's law. Beautiful, Chris. How are you, my friend? I got Landlord Super last night. I haven't played it, though. Relatable phrasing is often like speech. We have limited breath. You bring up another point, right? We have limited breath, so phrasing is most effective in certain lengths, certain increments. Phrases that are just, I mean, imagine an organism 10 times our size. They would have phrase lengths, you would imagine, 10 times as long. There would be pages of before a phrase. I'm thinking of the trees in Lord of the Rings. Play it on stream. Yeah? Whales. Across distances that we can't fathom. Oh, more meeting in 3 minutes. I would be happy to play it on stream once this partner push is kind of over, which should only be maybe 4 or 5 more streams, to be honest with you. I think it's going very well. And I'm not saying that I'm going to get it. I expect to be rejected. I just would like to be able to apply. That's kind of the goal right now. And the support that has happened is incredible. Awesome autumnology. He also wrote a column in Scientific American that is a series on several topics. That if you just want brain candy, it's called Metamagical Themas. I think a lot about the perception of beauty. Is it limited to humans? Certainly, it can be produced in nature, i.e. sunset, so why not by machine? Well, beauty is a concept. It does not exist until we perceive a thing. Beauty is different from a sunset, right? Those are separate things. We may apply the concept of beauty once we come across a sunset. Is it only a human's moment of awareness, perception of beauty, that defines / creates something as beautiful, or is it intrinsic to its existence? Yeah, I kind of knew where you were going. Does it need to wish to communicate something of its essence to become art? I don't think that all things that are beautiful can wish or communicate. It doesn't have to be between two humans, in my opinion, no. Does subjectivity actually exist? There are lots of subjects. It makes me wonder if there's a single person on the planet saying, nah, sunset is not nice. I mean, I've definitely had thoughts like that, honestly, Hardy. I've been in places where I'm just like, fuck that flower, you know? It's all pretty and delicate and I want to smash it. Depression excluded. Now we're splitting hairs, Hardy. Tic-tac-toe. I won't play tic-tac-toe, man. It's the only way to win. Yeah. Yeah, it's. I think people are forgetting about the artificial part, right? There's intelligence, artificial intelligence. It's a tricky thing. I think. Okay, in Schnauf's stream, we were talking earlier about bringing things out of the clouds and killing the magic. Like, he didn't want music to be some magical thing, right? So he wanted to bring some of this down. He wanted to bring the fire down from the gods, as it were, and kill the magic for some people. And I know it sounds like an awful thing, but the more you understand how something like that works, it's the less limited by ignorance you are, right? Like, when you're a beginner in a subject, the whole world seems like it's open. You know, anything is possible. You haven't learned the constraints yet. You know, your mind hasn't been brought in tune with reality. And I think just learning a little bit about how these things actually do work would benefit a lot of us. Um, and there's deeper levels of knowledge, right? Like, we're never going to be experts, but I think we can look to the future with some sense of realism, if we are willing to engage with these topics and just kind of learn about them. We can postulate, right? But why don't we go, like, learn about them? Yeah, make it mortal. Yeah. Oh yeah, I've heard about this, Tofu. I've heard about the 5 levels of explaining things. I don't know who told me about this. So they explain the same concept in 5 different levels. That's such a cool exercise, isn't it? Same about music. Took courses about technique and reading, but the concept of harmony and composition is stranger to me. Well, again, you should check out Schnauf's VOD from today. Honestly, like, it would be such a good VOD for a lot of us to watch. I appreciated that discussion so freaking much, and the stuff that Schnauf was saying so freaking much. His intentions and motivations are so good to me. Like, I don't know. I can't speak highly enough about Schnauf.